Macro Dirt Podcast number 50 with me and JD. What's up, dog?
What's up, carrot peeler?
How are you today, man?
Good.
Good, good. I know that we have such a special setup for today that we're not even going to talk finance. We're going to hit people with our conversation with Jon Gordon about success and spirituality. Here goes. And now for the special guest portion of the Macro Dirt Podcast, we have got my dear friend, my fraternity brother, fellow Cornell lacrosse player, and member of the Chi Psi fraternity, Jon Gordon. How are you, my man?
TG, doing great. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. I haven't mentioned that yet, that you are a best-selling author and one of the most inspirational, motivational speakers that I've ever listened to, gotten advice from, and, followed in a long time. So I want to thank you for that. Meet my man, Jared Dillian here.
Hey, Jared, the Podfather. I love that.
What's up?
What's up, Jared?
Yeah, man. So we're grateful that you could come on with us today, Jon. We're obviously a financial podcast, but JD just wrote a book about success and spirituality. And you're like the first person that comes to mind right after Jesus when I think of spirituality, since you've been so helpful in my journey. So I figured I'd have you on and we could shoot the shit about it. What do you think?
I love that. Me and Jesus in the same sentence sounds a little strange, but I'll take it. I love Jesus, and as you know, I actually grew up Jewish, and yet I follow Jesus. So love
Unpack
Jesus.
that story. Unpack that story for us just a moment, JG. It's an amazing story. I love it. So give us the Cliff's Notes.
Yeah, I was bar mitzvahed. My mom was Jewish. My biological father was actually Jewish. So I say I was born with anxiety because I had two Jewish parents. And then my mom remarried my stepfather who raised me. Again, I called him dad because he was my dad. And he was Italian, Joe Nicolosi. And so Joe Nicolosi and Nancy raised me. And we never went to church, never went to temple, so I didn't really have any religion in my life. In my 20s, I was a New Ager. I was a seeker. I studied Buddhism and meditation and all the different religions, you name it. I studied it. I was interested in all of it. Never even thought about being Catholic or Christianity or Jesus. And then in my early 30s, a friend of mine gave me some sermons, and they really spoke to me. One was called Why I Follow Jesus. Another one was Covered in Dust, which was about Jesus as a Jewish rabbi, and how as a rabbi, that's why his disciples followed him, because he was this rabbi and he had something to share, something to teach. And these young men followed him for that reason. If you watch The Chosen, it's really about Jews. It's about these Jewish people who were eventually the early Christians as they followed Jesus. So these sermons spoke to me. And then I kid you not, TG, I'm meditating, doing my Buddhist meditations, and I start seeing a glowing cross in the meditations. And I start seeing these signs. And so I go to this Buddhist energy healer, and I tell him what's going on. And he says, Christianity is like spiritual cheating. He's like, all you do is believe and receive. He says, as a Buddhist, I'm trying to attain an enlightenment to see if I can do it on my own. But with Christianity, you got help. He says, Jesus takes your soul pain. I'm like, what do you mean takes your soul pain? He goes, well, Christians call it sin. I call it soul pain. I said, can I take someone else's soul pain? He said, can you handle your own? So I walked out of there believing in a God that would want to take my soul pain, my sin, my burden. And if it's called cheating, whatever it is, it sounded good to me. And I said, I'm going to give this Jesus a shot. I remember saying, if this Jesus is who he says he is, show me the signs. Everywhere I went, man, I started seeing signs. One literally said, Jesus is the answer on the road as I'm driving. And
sometimes they're not so subtle, right?
Yes, not so subtle. And again, this is not religion to me. I don't want people to think about religion. And I can even explain spirituality in terms of faith. Like if you study the Bible, it's actually not a religious book. It's a book to elevate our mind and our soul, to take us to a higher level. It's actually a very metaphysical book about the way we think and who we can become. So Jared, spirituality and success, I'm down with that, because that's how we become more successful, when you have a spiritual foundation. People don't realize that. But if you want to get deeper into it, we can.
Someone explained to me that Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth.
I like that. That's a great. Yeah. Anyone who reads it goes, wow, I didn't know this was in here. I didn't know this was in here. This makes sense. This makes sense. We just had research today that shows that negative thoughts actually affect your brain. Well, guess what? That's in the Bible. As a man thinks, he becomes. Don't be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. There's countless references in the scriptures about what happens to our soul, our mind, and our brains and our being through our thoughts. So it's all there actually when you look for it. Proverbs has tons of wisdom. There's just so much wisdom in there. And again, I think people unfortunately are tainted by the crazy Christians out there. And that's the challenge, is that you get these crazy religious people that scare people away. But there's a lot of love and there's a lot of truth and there's a lot of power in understanding faith. And by the way, there's a lot of power in the Jewish faith too. So to my friends who are Jewish, there's a lot of power in the Jewish faith. Get back to your tradition, get back to your roots, get back to your faith. You'll find greater power in doing that.
Absolutely true. What are your comments on that, JD?
I think now would be a good time to read that piece from my book.
Read it.
What do you think?
Read it, and then we'll plow ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a book of 79 different essays on different topics pertaining to success and spirituality. And this is from an essay called Resentment. Okay, I'm writing about resentment. So I said, I want to take a brief detour here and talk about how unproductive it is to try to control the entire universe with our minds. We worry about bad things happening, thinking that if we worry hard enough, that if we pray for a bad outcome, then it won't happen. We resent other people, thinking that if we resent them hard enough, they'll change and we will get what we want. Virtually all forms of non-heritable mental illness come from a desire to control other people and our surroundings. Virtually all forms of non-heritable mental illness come from an inability to accept other people and the world as they are. You can't control your kid dropping out of college. You can't control your husband letting out a loud fart when he gets out of bed in the morning. You can't control the county when they hand you a property tax increase. You can't control the airport that just rerouted flight patterns over your house. You can't control who becomes president. The number of things you actually can control is shockingly small. You take the action and you leave the results up to somebody else. That's how this game works. Read this paragraph a few times. If you understand it and internalize it, you will never need a therapist again.
Why don't you unpack it for us first, JD?
Well, it's funny. I have a big different background than Jon's, but working on Wall Street. This is 2025. I worked for Lehman from 2001 to 2008. I was an absolute psychological wreck when I was working on Wall Street. In 2003, I had a suicide attempt. It was really, really bad. And, the most common forms of mental illness among professionals are anxiety and depression. Anxiety being the most common. And I had anxiety out the wazoo. And really, after studying this for a long time, what I discovered was anxiety really is about control. It's about trying to control people and things that you have no control over. And you think that you can control it with your mind, So obsessive thinking, obsessive thoughts, and really the antidote to that is prayer and meditation, right?
Okay.
And that's what I've learned later in life, is that prayer and meditation are the answer to anxious thoughts. So, I like to tell people my least favorite time of day is when I get into bed at night, because I'm thinking about all the stuff I forgot to do. I'm thinking about all the stuff I got to do tomorrow. I'm thinking about something stupid I said 20 years ago to a girl. I'm thinking, I have like all these like cringe memories coming back. And, now I have a solution to that. I pray, right? Like I pray every night, and that's my solution. So
that's beautiful. And I want to jump in here for 1 second, because I think I know what's close to about to come out of Jon Gordon's mouth. And I got to think it's along the lines of, if you're feeling blessed, you can't be stressed, right? When Jon Gordon taught me that science proves that the brain cannot be blessed and stressed at the same time, you have to think about controlling it and think about the positive thoughts and the blessed side. So I'll let Jon take it over from there. But I love that, JD. I'm going to come back to my Wall Street anxiety issue that JG saved me from after I hear from him.
Yeah, I love what JD is saying. There's so much truth to that. It's all truth. And TG, I thought you were gonna say that you expected me to talk about the one truth, because that's where I'm going now.
That's next.
Because
Yes.
the one truth really explains what JD is actually talking
better,
about,
yeah.
and it goes like under the hood and explains where it's all coming from. And people should know, by the way, I'm not naturally positive. So growing up in this Jewish Italian family, I grew up with a lot of negativity. My dad was a New York City police officer, undercover narcotics. And I struggled a lot with negativity. And as you know, Tony, I mean, my college teammates can't believe what I'm doing now. They're like, you were a mental
Unbelievable.
wreck in college. You were a mental I was a mental wreck, and
Yeah.
dealt with a lot of anxiety and fear and worry and doubt, and also depression. And now I'm the guy who works with the LA Rams and Sean McVay and Dabo Sweeney and the Clemson Tigers and countless professional sports teams and NFL, NBA teams. California Redwoods just talked about in a great article about how the energy bus, they all read it as a team. They're off to a 2-0 start, and they use that book, right? So Miami Heat, I work with them in their championships. LA Dodgers, I work with the Dodgers. Just spoke to the Yankees coaching staff this year before the season to help them. So I do all this work with businesses and leaders and sports teams. So I'm a spiritual person, but I work at the practical level to help teams and organizations get better. Cultural, mindset, teamwork. But guess what? You know what? You know what drives it all? What Jared's talking about. It's about oneness and separateness, connection and disconnection. Jared, when we want control, it's because we don't trust in God. And when you don't trust in God, you try to be God. And when you try to be God, it separates you from God. That's the lesson actually in the Garden of Adam and Eve. They tried to be God, eat from the fruit of the tree. And when they try to be God because they didn't trust in God, then they got separated from God, from each other, and from God. And that is actually what drives our need for control. We actually feel separate, and we feel disconnected, and we feel powerless. All mental health disorders report feelings of isolation, disconnection, and separation. So depression, I retreat from others. I retreat from society. I don't want to be around people. I feel disconnected. Anxiety, the word anxious comes from the Greek word, which means to separate and divide. And so it actually means separate and divided. When I'm anxious, I'm disconnected. So in that gap, the separation between me and God, that's where all the negative thoughts come in. That's what all the fear, all the worry. You said it. Have you noticed that overthinking is always associated with negative thoughts? We never say I have too many positive thoughts. No one lays in bed at night with their thoughts racing, can't fall asleep, thinking about how awesome their life is. Man, I just got too much gratitude today. Man, my life is just too good right now. Man, I'm thinking about all the positive things that happened in my life over the years. No, you're thinking about that one thing that went wrong years ago. That's the clutter that lowers our state of mind and separates and disconnects us. So negative thought, the goal of negative thoughts is to separate, divide, weaken, and make us powerless. So it's a battle between negative and positive. And the brain is actually an antenna. I read about this in The One Truth. Not like an antenna, it actually is. And there's two main frequencies, positive and negative. So you're either tuning into that negative frequency or that positive frequency. And when we pray, Jared, that's why the solution, when we pray, we were created for connection. And when we pray, we connect and we commune to God. Corinthians 6:17 says, he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit with him, which means you are spirit, God is spirit. So when you're praying, you actually become one spirit in those moments of prayer. And in that connection, that's where healing takes place. That's where your mind is elevated. That's where the connection leads to wholeness and peace and love and joy rather than fear, worry, and anxiety. This is why prayer is so important. Meditation is very helpful because meditation lowers the amount of thoughts in your head. It lowers the clutter, which allows for the connection to take place. But that's different than prayer. Meditation, where I believe in nothingness, what am I now connecting to? Nothing. And as a man thinks, he becomes. So if you're thinking about nothing, you become what? Nothing. It's not about nothing. It's about connecting to the God of everything. And when I connect to God, I'm connected to everything in the universe. I'm connecting to the oneness that I am a part of. And in that oneness, which is also a part of all other spiritual traditions as well. And as I become one in that connection, that's why you feel peace. It's why you feel joy. It's why you feel different. So, Jared, you gave people may not want to know all the behind the scenes like that I give. Like sometimes it's like maybe intellectual. What you're giving is a practical thing, and I think that helps people tremendously. Most of my early books were just like the energy bus: be thankful instead of stressed. But I didn't explain why. Now with the One Truth, I explain why gratitude is so important, because gratitude connects you to God, because you're thankful for it all, and to the one who created it all. So now you feel connected rather than separate. We got to get the world to pray more, because as people pray more, they will feel that connection. They won't have the anxiety and fear, and they will actually start to enhance their mental health. Man, this is the solution, and no one's talking about it.
GG, how about Notre Dame starts the practice of a pre-game mass, right? And goes right to the national championship.
Boom.
Right?
Boom.
There's something behind that for me. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's definitely something behind that as a guy.
Notre Dame lacrosse. I spoke to the lacrosse team a few years ago before they went to their national championship game. It was the Final Four they were heading to, and I got a chance to speak to the team on the field. I was in town speaking at a different event. Reached out to Kevin Corrigan. He's like, "Hey, come on over, say a few words." I come over there. I'm like, "What should I say?" And I knew what I should say. Guys, you're going to be going to the stadium. You're going to see the huge crowd. I said, "Don't look outside, look inside. Don't allow the fear to set in, worrying about the outcome. Love the battle. Love the competition. Love competing and love each other. That's it, guys. Don't worry about the outcome. You just love competing. And guess what? Love connects you. Fear divides you. The minute you focus on love, you now connect instead of being divided by fear. And now you have power. You elevate your state of mind in love. They won the championship, and they even came back on a couple of those games to win it. And they were asked what happened. And Kevin said, "Man, we chose to focus on love instead of fear."
It is amazingly powerful. It is amazingly powerful for a team. And I had the high school experience, just to throw it in, where our high school lacrosse team at Chaminade was not the best team in the league, but we were the 10 best friends in the league. And we won the national, and not national, God, I wish. We won the Catholic League championship.
Yep.
Just because we were closer and loved each other more than the other guys. And there's no doubt about it for me. So I'll tie my connection back to JG. I was in, there was a time in my sales trading career when I could see the writing on the wall that all of this was going electronic. I was going from making an enormous amount of money as a commission broker to staring down the barrel of God knows what this is going to turn into, but I ain't going to be making this much money. And in the background, I was taking a financial leap and building a house on some property that I had just bought, which, if you've ever done, is an amazing experience, but it's kind of harrowing financially. You know, there's a lot of cash outlay, and it's constant, and it just keeps going. And so now I'm in this mental pickle where I got to figure out what to do about my diminishing paycheck while I'm taking on a bigger expense. And I turned into an utter catastrophe mentally. Like, it was just too much for me to bear every day, and I didn't even realize it. And I went to work every day as the most negative son of a bitch that you ever want to talk to or hear in your life, to the point that I hated myself. And when one of my clients, who is another fraternity brother of Jon Gordon and I, just mentioned his name, I was like, holy cow, that little bastard's a best-selling author now, isn't he? And I looked up and I grabbed your first book. I grabbed The Energy Bus. I was like, I'm going to start with Jon, man. I got to get my head out of this hole. And I read The Energy Bus. And it was literally like the first light bulb went off of just getting me out of the tailspin that I was in, because you explained to me that I had basically become an energy vampire myself.
Yeah.
Right. I was just a negative person. I couldn't think about what I was going to do to change my circumstances. I just knew they had to change. And until I stopped being negative and dwelling on the problem and started thinking about solutions and not being such a negative person, did I ever get out of that hole. You know what I mean? But it was just thinking about your guidance through that book, and like, no, you don't want the energy vampires around. You actually kick them out of the picture. And so when I kind of kicked myself as a negative energy vampire out of the picture and started saying, okay, no, I'm going to count my blessings. I'm going to work on that. And then I'm going to work towards what's going to happen next. And several years later, I wound up launching TG Macro. And now we're 7 years later than that. And I have a sustainable business, and I don't report to anybody. So I have JG to thank for a little bit of that.
That's an honor. That's huge. I remember you struggling, and guess what? I struggled too. My wife almost left me. I was so negative. Jared had his challenges. This is why we do what we do. We're guys who have been through the fire. We almost gave up, but we didn't. We kept persevering. We turned the negative into a positive. And I think we're testaments to everyone that this is possible. Wherever you are in your situation, it's not the end. It may look like it's the end, but it's not. If you start to change your thinking, it sounds cliche, But it is true. As a man thinks, he becomes. If you start to change your thinking, you really can change your reality. And going back to what Jared said, if you pray more, you start praying. Every prayer is going to change you. When you pray, you're never the same after each prayer. So the prayer that you make today will become the person you are tomorrow. And it really it fills your soul and your spirit up on a daily basis, gives you a resilience and strength that is just so much greater than if you're just living in this everyday world.
I have to touch on that in a moment too, because when JD told me his book was about success and spirituality, I'm thinking about like, how is this Wall Street guy going to write about spirituality? Because I hadn't seen Jared as a very spiritual person, but I know that he understands this. So the reason I had to tie in the success and spirituality with you is because it wasn't until my spiritual life got much healthier did I get on the path to success. And then just understanding that they go together. You know what I mean? Like I feel a lot better as a professional now because my relationship with God is better and I kind of leave a lot more up to him. And I kind of try to follow your advice, which is get up and do the work every single day. Get up and create, do what you were meant to do and what makes you happy. So I appreciated that whole tie in there, right, JD?
This is incredible stuff, man. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm actually kind of going through my book right now, trying to find other stuff that's relevant.
Yeah, please do. And you can take a moment if you need to. Otherwise,
John, do you mind if I send you a copy of my book?
I'd love it. I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you wrote it. I mean, we need a lot of voices out there.
So this is from an essay called Mental Obsessions and Letting Go. And there's a paragraph in here. It's really about codependency. Okay. You have a child who is addicted to drugs, severely addicted. You believe their life is in danger. It is the last thing you think about before you fall asleep and the first thing you think about when you wake up. It is a mental obsession. You find yourself getting personally involved in his or her problems. Their success or failure dictates your success or failure. You are codependent. This is where it is time to let go. You make some options available like AA or rehab. You encourage them to go, but that is all you have control over. You cannot make someone get sober if they don't want to get sober. If they want to get sober, they will get sober. It is that simple. So level 98 of the letting go video game is doing the footwork and stepping back and being willing to accept the possibility that your own offspring will fail, even if that means they lose their own life. It's not on you.
That's a little heavy.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to do, but it also is essential to let go and to know that we are not in control. But also, it's helpful to understand that the person who's addicted, why are they addicted? What are they really seeking? Connection. They really want a relationship with God. And so they feel disconnected. So they try to fill the hole in their soul with something that's going to make them feel better. But it's actually just temporary relief, but it doesn't lead to restoration. It's relief, but not restoration. We live in a society that is spending billions on relief, but they're not finding restoration. Cheap substitutes that fill the hole temporarily, but they got to keep filling it up and destroying their soul in the process if they can see what they really want. This is why AA programs work. AA programs create a connection to a community. So now you have a community you're connected to that allows for healing, and then the connection to a higher power. Both of those start to lead towards the healing that people need as they find oneness instead of separation. Jared, everything comes down to disconnection and connection. It could be every single behavior, every sin, every stupid mistake we make is the result of the feeling of disconnection instead of connection. And we're all seeking that connection with God, with ourselves, and through our relationships. And when you have those relationships, you have a great team, you have connection, you have greater commitment. This is the key to my work with teams and organizations. I help them become more connected, they become more committed, and they all perform at a higher level, and they fight for each other instead of against each other.
I got to take the floor for a second, JG, because I am a member of your mentorship circle, which creates an automatic connection for me to a group of like-minded professionals that are kind of seeking the same thing. And it's really, we're all seeking our own level of success and spirituality. I think, is that fair to say?
I would say that's not like the stated goal, but I would say you're right. Because when we talk about spirituality, what does that really mean? We're really just seeking wholeness. Yeah. We're seeking integrity. The word integrity comes from the word integer, which means whole and complete. We all want to come from a whole and healing place And I tell people in my group all the time, the circle, like, I'm not going to help you 10x your business. I'm going to help you 10x you. And as you 10x you, then you 10x your business.
So that's
And
what
that's what
John has
happens.
done. So that's what your mentorship circle has done for me.
Yes.
You know, like through connecting with you guys, I've helped to figure out like myself, my connection with God, how to manage that. And because that's in such healthier shape now, my business is firing.
Right.
Right. It's like my general manager will tell you that since I started with your mentorship program, that my nose has been to the grindstone, focused, and I don't let up. And that's only because I'm not allowing the distractions. You know what I mean? I'm staying focused on my goals. I'm leaving the stuff out of my control up to God, and I'm just showing up and doing my job every day. And everything is working out. And you can't tell me that there's not a direct connection between being in your program and this happening, because my executive assistant told me that this is happening. So
I
it's kind of cool.
appreciate that. And I also have seen it with all the others. We only have 100 people in this group. The max, we're at 85 right now. We're only allowing another 15 in. But as people come in, and people have been with us for a year now, it's been cool to watch their growth, your growth, everyone's growth. I ask people all the time, how's it going for you? Are you enjoying it? Are you finding value in it? Because I want to make sure people are receiving more value than they're paying. And
Yep.
they are all receiving value and growth. And they can't point to anything particular like, yeah, you gave me this idea that helped me scale this business in this way. I never gave you,
Right.
like Tony, I mean, I would guarantee you're probably a better businessman than I am, from a technical, pure businessman. But what I help people do is elevate, as we talked about, elevate you, and that elevates your business. And I'm watching everyone's business grow. Many of them are authors and speakers. I'm watching their speaking grow, their
Definitely.
speaking business grow. And many of them are entrepreneurs who are also just wanting to speak and write as well, in addition to their successful businesses that they own. These are multimillionaires, but they all just want to grow. So it's a really great group of like-minded people who are on this journey together. Well, I would say, Tony, we're about impact. I would say the group wants to make a greater impact. Everyone wants to make a greater impact. And as they become more whole, they're able to make this bigger impact in their businesses, and then also in the markets that they reach.
It totally feels like people are breaking out of the shackles like that have been holding them back. And they're realizing, they're like, look at these shackles I just broke off of my body. I'm free from this shit now. You know, so that it's really cool to see that working like that. What do you think, JD?
Success and spirituality.
Man, this is awesome. I wish we had met earlier. Like, I'd love to sit down and grab a coffee with you or something. Where are you located right now?
In Florida, Jacksonville area, Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida.
Oh, really? We're not that far away.
Where are you?
I'm in South Carolina. I'm on the coast, so we're about 5 hours away.
Are you in Charleston?
Jump in the vet, bro.
I'm a little north of Charleston. North of Charleston.
We've been to Charleston a bunch of times. Great area.
Jump in the vet. We'll go down there and we'll make Jared pay for dinner. Yeah. I'll meet you guys.
How do you and Jared know each other?
So Jared and I met. I was sales trading on Wall Street, and somebody flipped me this note through my Bloomberg that was like, dude, you got to read this, man. And I read this note that was about the markets, and it was Jared doing a very tongue-in-cheek piece called Buy Everything, right? And he was saying buy everything because the Fed was starting on a path of heavy-duty money printing. And Jared wrote this post that he knows exactly the one that I'm talking about, that was like, buy everything. Buy everything in sight. Buy everything that's not nailed down. Buy a house. Buy a ball peen hammer. Buy the thing that they line the ballpark baselines with. Buy one of those. And I read it and I was like, who the fuck wrote this? I need this guy's number. And I just went through the phone and called him. I was like, that is unbelievable. Get me on your list. And we've been friends ever since.
Is that because we were going to head towards inflation, so you should buy now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that was kind of the theme that he was telling. He was saying there's about to be crazy monetary debasement. Yeah. The Fed is embarking on this path. I mean, it couldn't have been more accurate.
Buy assets. So he's saying buy the assets now.
Right. I mean, if we had bought the S&P that day and put it away, I mean, we're rich. No joke. So it was a really cool thing. That's how, that being able to touch people in the business with the business that way is like it was like what I wanted to do, because I had a note that I sent to clients too, but it was dog shit compared to that. And I was like, oh, you can get creative with this. You can do this. You can just express yourself. You don't have to be between these Wall Street lines that have been laid out for 20 years. You do it as you see fit. So that was a great breakthrough moment for me in my life and my career.
That's good. We got to get Jared in the circle. Come on, Jared, join the circle. Let's go.
He's in. He's in. That's an easy sell. And by the way, I get a commission if he joins the circle.
Okay, done.
Um, so it sounds like we have a good triumvirate here that I'm hoping that we're going to open up some hearts and minds that listen to this. JG, as you know, this is our 50th podcast. And so we're trying to spread the message. We hope that you can share it with your people in some respects if you like the conversation as well. We're going to post it on Twitter and hopefully share it around. But it seems like something that we should probably do on at least a once a year basis, if not a little bit more than that. I think that people, especially traders, will appreciate the spiritual side of life, because talk about like letting go of things beyond your control. That's what trading is. It's having a game plan and then adapting and being open-minded and stuff like that. So I think all of this really applies. Most importantly, it applies in your life directly.
Yeah,
By the way, I have a theory of what makes a good trader. There's a couple things. There's intelligence. Usually smart people make better traders. There's experience. Experience counts for a lot. But the third thing is actually emotional fitness. Emotional fitness. So neurotic people generally don't make good traders. Happy, confident people make good traders. It's really about emotional fitness. And the fourth thing is introspection, like thinking about your own thoughts, like examining your own decision-making process. But I like to focus on the emotional fitness, right? And I'm sure that applies in other disciplines as well. So
that's interesting.
JG, that's brilliant. I mean, Jared, that's brilliant. My thing that I always preach in trading is to trade with no emotion. Have no emotion. This is my trade idea. It's right. Great. It's wrong. I'm out. That's it. Nothing else, And so that's very much important to literally the most important thing in the game. And that introspection, that is Steve Cohen talking about the conversation in my head. Listen, when you're a trader, make sure you listen to the conversation in your head. It's really important. What are your thoughts on trading, JG?
I'm glad you guys are doing this, because one thing I know is that traders are not really reading books like mine. Traders are not most often doing this kind of work or interested in self-growth and just going to higher levels spiritually. I know a lot of traders. I have a lot of friends who are traders. I mean, you're in the grind every day. You're doing the work. You go home. You're reading the Wall Street Journal. You got your family. You're going to bed. You're up the next day doing the same thing. And so very rarely do I have traders who have said, I read your books. Usually when I've been brought into some offices, people look at you like you have two heads when you're talking about these things. So I think this is great to bring the conversation to traders, because guess what? We all have a soul, and everyone's soul needs healing. Romans 8:5-6 says, a mind governed by the flesh leads to death. A mind governed by the spirit leads to life and peace. What are you being guided by every single day? Is it the flesh or the spirit? Prayer is the spirit. Greed is the flesh. And again, guess what? We all want to make money. We all want to be very successful. But what's guiding you? The spirit will lead to your ultimate success and growth and financial abundance beyond you can ever imagine, when that's not your focus. When your focus is on the money and you're not focused on the spirit at all, you can still accumulate money at that point. But in the meantime, your soul is dying and becoming more and more dysfunctional and more problems. So you may retire rich, but you may be miserable for the rest of your life. What are you building? What are you creating? And this is about, you can have it all. People think you can't. You can have it all. You can be mentally, spiritually very healthy, and you can be very successful. That's why I think it's great that Jared wrote this book on spirituality and success. You can have both. I think sometimes people think, I need my edge. I need my edge. Well, guess what? Your competitive edge doesn't go away. It's called healthy ambition. I'm the most competitive person out there. I played sports in college. When I played pickleball, I want to destroy you. And I'm competitive. And I have found that the most successful people are competitive, but they have the right goal in mind. They have the right scoreboard as they're being competitive. And that's the key. We learn to fight and be competitive at one level, playing sports, even trading, even trying to outdo the market, right? We become competitive that way, which is great. I love that we should try to trade, outdo the market. Why? So that we actually grow in our competitive spirit and our skill to eventually fight for the good in this world. And as you learn to fight for the good, you become a powerful fighter of the good, because we have to take on all the evil and negativity in the world. So we're actually taught how to fight for the good. And I've become a stronger fighter of the good by being a competitive person my whole life.
That is a great way to look at it, Jon. Absolutely brilliant, because there should be no shame in being a ferocious competitor.
No.
You know, there should be no shame in being a warrior. You know, there should be no shame in things like that.
And no shame in wanting to make money. Make a lot of money and then do good with it. You know, I give a lot away to charity. I give a ton. I make more money than I ever thought I would make. I've sold 5.5 million books now. I've made a lot of money off of just writing books. But I always tithe. I always give back. I'm always supporting charities. I'm able to do so much more with it and give a ton away because of it. And then use this influence and ability to impact in greater ways. So make a lot of money, do good with it, and then have a greater scoreboard to then even like count how many people you can actually help on this journey. Tony, how many people you're reading your newsletter? How many people are being benefited by it? How many people are then growing and doing new things with it and growing their businesses because of it? Jared, how many people have you helped along the way? We all want to count. So here's I'll finish with this. Every man needs 3 things, and women as well. Every person needs 3 things. They need a mission, a team, and a scoreboard. You got to have your mission. You got to have a team that supports you, encourages you. No one creates success alone. And you got to have the scoreboard. Measure your success and then allow that scoreboard. I believe we have 2 scoreboards. One's the success scoreboard and one's the impact scoreboard. And those 2 scoreboards are key.
Well, that was one of the tremendous lessons that I took away from your mentorship circle was the scoreboard. And when you said that, I scoreboarded everything in my business, literally everything. There is now an Excel spreadsheet tab to keep score of every number that moves in my business. And we obsess over them. And now the needle is moving in the right direction.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. That's also a Jared Dillian lesson in there, right? JD, didn't you write once that you have tremendous utility for big, jolly shitloads of cash? Right, to do good things with, right? That's what you were writing about. You know, you're like, I want to build a house. I could give money to charity if I have a lot of money. You know, like if I've built on success, I am a useful person to society. So I think that's another good way to look at it. JG, do you have any other closing? You've wrapped everything up so nicely. I'm so grateful that you had this conversation with us and showed our audience the world that you've opened me up to. That's helped me so much in God, everything, and why, you know, I'm so grateful that you answered my texts immediately and listened to my bullshit and helped me on the spot and stuff like that, because you're a true friend, just like JD. And I couldn't thank you enough. JD, do you want to close with any comments before we end this portion of the podcast?
No, I got nothing to say. This is awesome.
It was awesome. It was really, really cool. And I'm excited to rewatch this. So
JD, share your cover of your book again.
Sure.
I always want to support new authors. And I just want to say, buy Rule 62, Success and Spirituality, Jared Dillian. I want to say, get that book. Also read The One Truth. That's the book I wrote. That will teach you how to have the right thoughts instead of negative thoughts. It will also teach you how thoughts work. I guess I want to finish on that. I want to finish on the fact that, like, I can't get rid of what Jared said earlier about those negative thoughts coming in. People need to understand this. This is key, because I know someone has kids out there that's struggling with negative thoughts, and they might even be suicidal. And here's the key. Teach them that those negative thoughts are not coming from them. Your negative thoughts, Jared, are not coming from you. How do I know, Jared? Who would ever choose to have a negative thought? Would you ever choose a suicidal thought? Would you ever choose a thought that says you don't have it today, the future's hopeless, you should just give up? No one would ever choose that thought.
Yeah,
it's
your
a thought
mind
that
mind doesn't do that.
It's a thought that comes in from a spiritual place. It comes in from consciousness, from a spiritual place. The brain's the antenna, tunes into it, and then it's activated in the brain, and then it becomes something. So we're not the thoughts we think, we're the thoughts we believe. So when the negative thought comes in, you don't have to believe the lie that it says. You could actually choose to speak truth to the lie, words of encouragement, words of life, and not let that negative thought become you. So when I have those negative thoughts now, I go, nope, I don't agree with that, and I'm not listening to it. Here's what I think. Here's what I believe, and I'm saying what I believe. It's become so powerful now over the last 20 years of doing this, that the guy who was depressed, anxious, miserable all the time, and who literally wanted to commit suicide and whose wife almost left him, now wakes up most days feeling positive, encouraged, and full of life and excitement, where I did not feel that way. I have tuned my antenna to the positive so much now that I'm getting that more often. And my brain, my mind, my soul, my spirit has gone to a higher level. Just like, what are you tuning into? You can tune
Yeah.
into the lower level shit, or you can
Yeah.
tune into the elevated, beautiful music of life. What are you tuning into? That's going to determine your life. So we got to teach kids when those negative thoughts are coming in, it's not coming from you. Tune that dial, start tuning into the positive instead of the negative, and you can take control of your thoughts. Do you know how many kids I've talked to? These are friends' kids, friends from college, friends out in the world, successful leaders whose kids are struggling, many of them who are suicidal or really depressed or full of anxiety. This one teaching that your negative thoughts are not coming from you changed them immediately, shifted their consciousness and their mindset immediately, where they're no longer blaming themselves for the thoughts in their head. Because these kids are beating themselves up, thinking something's wrong with them. Man, I got all these negative thoughts. Man, I must be full of shit. Man, I must be a loser. I must be, a nothing. No, you're just believing the lies. You're in a battle between negative and positive. I teach the kid how to armor themselves with the positive to overcome the negative. I teach them they are in a battle, and here's how to win the battle. And now the kid's going, man, I'm in a battle against an enemy, and it's not me. Stop beating yourself up. Beat the enemy up, and that's how you win. That's changed these kids. One kid, the next day, his mother said, what did you do? He's fine now. This kid was in the ER 2 nights before, ready to commit suicide. That kid is in college now. And I reached out to him the other day, and he said, hey, how you doing? He said, doing great, Mr. Gordon. High state of mind. So this kid is doing great. And this is what I want to close with, because something led me to say this. I guarantee someone's listening to this and dealing with this, or someone's kid is dealing with this. And hopefully this will help them. And again, reading Jared's book, reading The One Truth, will guide you on that process.
Talk about a value play. This is one of the most valuable conversations that we're going to put online ever, JD, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, JD is fairly speechless, so I'm going to close off this end of the conversation. I'm going to say thank you to Jon. I'm going to say thank you for teaching me how to live on a much higher vibration and successful path than I've been on. And I'm going to continue to stay close with you to promote that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thanks, JD. Thanks, Jon Gordon, for joining us. We'll have you guys back very soon. Thank you very much, good people.